A new mail carrier in the Iowa farmland follows the GPS to a farmhouse address. The device points to one location, but the actual house appears to be somewhere else. That first mistake becomes the beginning of a local mystery. The story is not about a single unusual delivery. According to the account, postal workers have repeatedly encountered the same problem. They arrive at an expected location, find no farmhouse, and later locate the property at a different place. The claim sounds simple. The records are not. This documentary separates what was reportedly documented, what residents said, what remains speculation, and what must be treated as a reconstruction. The setting is an unnamed stretch of Iowa farmland. The source does not identify a county, a road, a mail carrier, or a property owner. Those details require additional confirmation. The first reported incident involves a new mail carrier making a routine delivery. The route information and the GPS appeared to agree, but the physical location did not match the expected farmhouse. A GPS device is not a witness to the land. It is a system that interprets stored coordinates, road data, and address information. A wrong pin, an old route file, or a changed property description can create a very ordinary mistake. That ordinary explanation matters. Before considering anything unusual, the first question is whether the address was entered correctly. The surviving account does not provide the original coordinates or the delivery record. What it does provide is the beginning of a pattern. The house was not simply difficult to see. The story says the location itself seemed inconsistent with the address being used. For the new carrier, the practical problem would have been straightforward. A delivery could not be completed at a place where the expected structure was not found. The source does not say how the carrier eventually located the house. That missing detail is important. It leaves open several possibilities, including outdated mapping, a rural route error, or a property description that had changed over time. But local residents reportedly recognized the story immediately. They already knew of a house sometimes described only as that house. No personal name or official nickname is supplied in the source. Residents allegedly treated the matter as familiar rather than new. Their accounts suggested that other mail carriers had experienced similar confusion, with the farmhouse appearing to be associated with more than one location. Testimony is evidence of what people remember and report. It is not the same as a survey, a deed, or a verified delivery log. That distinction remains central to this case. The source does not identify the residents who spoke about the farmhouse. It also does not provide dates, recorded interviews, or the exact wording of their statements. Those items require additional confirmation. Still, the local story gave investigators a direction. If the farmhouse had carried different addresses, the county's land and property records might preserve traces of those changes. The next step was the county recorder's office. In ordinary terms, a county recorder keeps documents connected to land ownership, property descriptions, and legal changes. Those records can be incomplete, but they are more durable than a rumor. The reported search found a confusing history. The farmhouse's address had changed 3 times. The source does not clarify whether this means 3 formal address changes, 3 recorded descriptions, or 3 references in separate documents. That distinction could change the meaning of the entire story. Rural addresses may be corrected, renumbered, or updated when roads, routes, or emergency systems change. A change in paperwork does not demonstrate a change in physical location. Even so, 3 address references create a real documentary question. Why did the property receive different addresses? And did each address point to the same parcel? The available account does not name the county or provide document numbers. Without those details, the records cannot be independently checked from the source alone. The claim remains reported rather than fully verified. The first address may have appeared in an older property record. The second may have been connected to a later administrative change. The third may have reflected another revision. The sequence is not supplied. This is where the mystery gains weight without becoming proof of anything supernatural. A confusing paper trail can explain a confusing delivery route, but it cannot by itself explain the farmhouse appearing in different places. The question then becomes physical. Were the 3 addresses merely labels for one fixed structure, or did maps and photographs place the structure differently over time? Investigators reportedly located a former resident who had lived in the house. The person was willing to discuss the property only to a limited extent and avoided explaining why the household eventually left. A refusal to answer is not evidence of a hidden event. People may avoid old properties for personal, financial, or family reasons. The source does not identify the former resident or record the exact exchange. Still, the interview introduced another layer of uncertainty. The former resident did not provide a clear explanation for the address history, and the account says the reason for leaving remained unspoken. That silence has been interpreted by some as meaningful. A careful review must stop short of that conclusion. Testimony becomes stronger when names, dates, recordings, and independent confirmation are available. The source provides none of those items. The former resident's statement should therefore be treated as testimony reported through the story, not as a complete historical record. The investigation then moved to aerial photography archives. Aerial photographs are images taken from above, often for mapping, agriculture, planning, or property assessment. They can show roads, fields, buildings, and changes in land use. According to the account, several photographs appeared to place the farmhouse slightly differently. The wording matters. Slightly differently does not necessarily mean dramatically displaced. Small differences can result from camera angle, image alignment, seasonal conditions, image stitching, or inaccurate map registration. Comparing photographs requires fixed reference points, such as roads, field boundaries, tree lines, or drainage features. The source does not describe the archive's owner, the dates of the photographs, their resolution, or the reference points used for comparison. Those details require additional confirmation. Even with those limitations, the photographs became the strongest reported physical clue. Unlike a rumor, an image can be examined, but an image can also be misread when its scale and alignment are uncertain. The alleged differences were not described as a dramatic relocation. They were described as small changes in where the farmhouse appeared to sit. That restrained detail is more consistent with an unresolved documentation problem than with a confirmed impossible event. If the structure had been rebuilt, moved, or replaced, an aerial archive might show evidence of construction, demolition, or a new foundation. The source does not report any such confirmation. If the map layer had shifted, the farmhouse could appear to move while roads and fields remained misaligned. The account does not state whether those surrounding features were compared systematically. This is the central analytical problem. The records, testimonies, and images point toward inconsistency, but they do not yet establish a single cause. The investigation then encountered a major loss of evidence. A county fire reportedly destroyed most of the relevant records. The source does not provide a date, location, cause, or official fire report. A records fire can explain why a case remains difficult to verify. It can also create a gap that later stories fill with assumptions. Missing documents are not proof that the missing material contained extraordinary information. The fire reportedly left only one photograph connected to the property. The source does not identify the photographer, the date, or the archive in which the image was found. That remaining photograph became the most important object in the account. It was not presented as a complete answer. Instead, a small detail in the image appeared to connect the farmhouse to the address history. The source does not specify the detail. It does not say whether it was a number, a sign, a road marker, a mailbox, or another feature. Any more precise description would be an invention. What can be said is narrower. One surviving image reportedly contained a detail that seemed relevant to the changing addresses. Its meaning remains uncertain because the surrounding records were lost. This is also where credibility must be handled carefully. A single photograph can preserve a clue, but its value depends on provenance, meaning the documented history of where it came from and how it was stored. No provenance information is supplied in the source. Without it, the photograph is a reported surviving artifact, rather than independently authenticated proof. The story's apparent reversal is therefore not that the house is proven to move. The reversal is that the best possible evidence is also the least complete evidence. The missing records prevent a clean comparison. The photograph raises a question, but cannot answer it. The testimony suggests a pattern, but does not establish dates or identities. Several ordinary explanations remain possible. Addresses may have been changed administratively. Mapping systems may have used different reference points. A structure may have been rebuilt, moved, or recorded inaccurately. The source does not confirm any of these explanations. It also does not eliminate them. A responsible mystery documentary must leave ordinary possibilities on the table. There's a second possibility. The story may combine separate events involving more than one farmhouse. Shared descriptions, incomplete memories, and repeated local language can make distinct properties appear to be one place. Again, the source does not confirm that interpretation. It is a possible explanation for why the story connects changing addresses, former residents, and aerial images without supplying a complete chain of records. The supernatural interpretation is also unconfirmed. The account describes a house associated with different locations, but it does not provide verified measurements, continuous observation, or physical evidence of movement. The distinction is simple. A strange pattern is not the same as a demonstrated cause. The available material supports an unresolved address mystery, not a confirmed spatial anomaly. Eventually, the property was reportedly empty. The source does not say when the farmhouse became vacant, whether the building remained standing, or whether the land was sold. The current condition of the site therefore requires additional confirmation. What is reported is that the present parcel is empty and that mail is still allegedly misdelivered there. That continuing error keeps the story alive. If mail continues to be sent to the wrong place, the cause may be an outdated database, a legacy address, or a recurring route problem. The source does not provide recent delivery logs or current map. Without them, the claim of repeated misdelivery remains testimony rather than a verified ongoing event. The unanswered detail is the one left in the surviving photograph. Whatever it showed, it was considered important enough to connect the image with the farmhouse's changing address history. But the exact object is not identified. The records that might explain it were reportedly destroyed. and the people who might clarify the sequence are unnamed. The documented portion is limited. A rumor about a farmhouse, a first delivery problem involving GPS and location, a reported history of 3 addresses, an interview with a reluctant former resident, aerial images said to differ, and a county fire that destroyed most records. The testimonial portion includes local residents who reportedly recognized the house story and a former resident who did not explain the reason for leaving. Those accounts require names, dates, and recordings before they can be independently evaluated. The speculative portion includes the idea that one farmhouse appeared in multiple locations, that a photographic difference represents physical movement, or that the unexplained detail has a supernatural meaning. None of those interpretations is confirmed by the supplied material. The strongest conclusion is more modest. The property has an unclear documentary history and may have been repeatedly misidentified by addresses or mapping systems. The possible interpretations remain several. Administrative renumbering could account for the paper trail. Mapping error could account for the GPS problem. Memory, story repetition, or multiple properties could account for the local legend. A physical change to the property cannot be ruled out from the summary alone, but it is not established. A supernatural explanation cannot be confirmed and should not be treated as fact. The farmhouse is now described as standing on an empty parcel, while the old address reportedly continues to attract misdirected mail. That detail is ordinary enough to be plausible and strange enough to remain unresolved. A better investigation would require the county name, recorder documents, delivery logs, aerial image dates, archive provenance, fire records, and direct interviews. None of those materials is included here. Until they are found, the case remains a story built around gaps. A location that did not match a GPS point, addresses that reportedly changed 3 times, and images that seemed slightly inconsistent. The final question is not whether the farmhouse moved. The available evidence cannot answer that. The sharper question is why one address continued to point somewhere that no longer matched the property people remembered. And in the one surviving photograph, the unidentified detail remains visible. But without the missing records, no one can say whether it explains the mystery or is simply the last surviving sign of how the mistake began. And in the one surviving photograph, the unidentified detail remains visible. But without the missing records, no one can say whether it explains the mystery or is simply the last surviving sign of how the mistake began. 3 weeks after the story was first circulated, an envelope arrived at the post office serving the area. It had no return address. Inside was a photocopy of a county tax card, folded twice and marked with a sentence written in blue ink. Look at the structure number, not the mailing address. The card was dated 1974. Its description was brief. 1.5-story frame dwelling, metal roof, detached smokehouse, well on the east side, farmhouse facing south. The parcel number was 42B. At the bottom of the form, beneath the assessed value, was a handwritten notation. Moved from original site, 1968. That single sentence changed the direction of the investigation. A house could have been moved, not in the way the legend suggested, appearing at different locations without explanation, but in the ordinary rural way. Houses were sometimes relocated when roads were widened, land was divided, or a family wanted the structure closer to a new well or a better access road. The card did not say where the house had been moved from. It did not identify the contractor, the owner, or the date of the relocation beyond the handwritten year. It was not an official movement permit. It was a clue, not a conclusion. The parcel number, however, could be followed. At the county courthouse, the parcel index was stored on a computer system that had been installed years after the fire. The clerk searched for 42B and found a sequence of transfers. In 1967, the parcel belonged to a farmer named Harold Venn. In 1969, it appeared under the name of his daughter, Ruth. By 1975, the same land had been divided into 2 lots. The farmhouse was not listed as a separate structure. It was included in the value of the land. That was common in the older records. A barn might be listed, a well might be noted. But the house itself was often treated as part of the property rather than as a separately tracked object. When the building moved, the tax card could follow the land, stay with the owner, or be rewritten from memory. The addresses were less stable than the parcel numbers. In 1964, the property had been identified as Route 3, Box 19. In 1971, it became Rural Delivery 2, Box 88. In 1982, after the county introduced numbered roads, the same general area was listed as 410 County Road 6. In 1991, the address changed again to 1187 North Bell Road. The 3 addresses reported by residents were not 3 unrelated places. They were 3 systems imposed on the same rural landscape over several decades. That appeared to solve the paper portion of the mystery. It did not explain the aerial photographs. The investigator requested the original imagery from the county's mapping office. The first file showed a rectangular house near the center of a field, with a narrow lane running south toward the road. The second image showed no house at that point. The structure appeared approximately 400 feet east, closer to a line of trees. At first, this seemed to confirm the house had been moved. Then the technician examining the image enlarged the lower corner. A date had been printed along the border, nearly invisible beneath a layer of scanning distortion. The first photograph was from April 1972. The second was from October 1972. Between those dates, the county had photographed the area twice for different purposes. The spring image had been taken for drainage planning. The fall image had been commissioned after a severe storm damaged several roads. The 2 photographs did not share the same scale. The spring image was a vertical survey photograph. The fall image was an oblique reconnaissance image taken from a small aircraft. The apparent distance between the structures was partly caused by perspective. The house in the first photograph was near the center of the frame. In the second, the camera angle shifted the building toward the edge, making the surrounding field appear compressed. But even after the images were aligned, a difference remained. The farmhouse was not in exactly the same place. The measurement was small, just under 40 feet, but it was too large to dismiss as perspective. The structure seemed to have been shifted toward the tree line. The technician checked the road, the fence line, and the well. The road had not changed. The fence line had. One section of fencing appeared in the spring image and was gone in the fall image. The well house also seemed to have been moved. That suggested the building might indeed have been relocated within the same parcel. A retired surveyor named Calvin Pike was contacted because his initials appeared on the 1974 tax card. He agreed to meet at a diner beside the county highway. He arrived carrying a narrow leather case and a paper measuring wheel. Pike was 86 and walked with a cane. He remembered the Venn property, though he did not remember the farmhouse legend. He did remember the move. The house had stood near a seasonal creek, he said. During a flood, water entered the crawl space and damaged the support beams. Rather than demolish the building, the family hired a crew to pull it uphill with jacks, rollers, and a tractor. The move took 2 days. Not far, Pike said, but far enough that the front door no longer faced the road. He drew 2 rectangles on a paper napkin. The first was the original foundation. The second was the later foundation, closer to the trees. The difference was 38 feet. That number matched the aerial comparison. Pike also explained the strange detail in the tax records. The county did not issue a new structure number when the house moved. The old address continued to identify the parcel. Mail carriers were expected to use the same route until a formal road assignment changed. The building had moved, but the address had not. That error could have lasted for years. The photograph was then re-examined with this information in mind. The mysterious object was not beside the house, as earlier viewers had assumed. It was in the background, near the edge of the field. A tall wooden post stood beyond the porch. At its top was a small rectangular plate. The image was too blurred to read, but the plate appeared to face away from the camera. Its position placed it beside the original driveway, not beside the relocated house. The post was an old rural delivery marker. When the farmhouse was pulled uphill, the mailbox and address marker remained near the old entrance. The road still led to the same property, but the visible marker pointed toward an empty patch of ground. A driver following the marker could stop at the former site and believe the house had vanished. That explained the first delivery error. It also explained why a GPS device could direct someone to the wrong location. The coordinates had likely been taken from the old driveway or copied from an outdated parcel map. The object in the photograph had not been evidence of a second house. It was the leftover sign of the first entrance. The investigator traveled to the parcel with Pike's hand-drawn diagram. The land was no lone year cultivated. Tall grass covered the field, and the trees had grown thick along the eastern boundary. There was no farmhouse. Only a shallow depression remained where the original foundation had been. Near the depression stood a weathered post. It leaned at an angle, half buried in weeds. The metal plate had fallen away, but 2 rusted bolts remained. Around the base, the ground was packed hard enough to show that vehicles had once stopped there regularly. 40 feet uphill, the second foundation was still visible. It was a rectangle of broken concrete surrounded by nettles. The farmhouse had not disappeared from one place and appeared in another. It had been moved within the same property and later removed entirely. Over time, the old marker, the parcel number, and the changing road systems had continued to refer to different points. The story had transformed a relocation of 38 feet into a relocation of several miles. But one part remained unexplained: the former resident's refusal to discuss why she left. Her name was Ruth Venn, the daughter listed on the 1969 parcel card. She had died years earlier. Her daughter, Elaine, lived in another county and agreed to speak by telephone. Elaine had heard the story many times. She remembered the farmhouse as a place with a steep staircase, a kitchen stove that smoked in winter, and a porch that faced the wrong direction after the move. She also remembered why her mother left. It had nothing to do with the house moving. In the winter of 1983, a neighbor's child entered the abandoned lower field while looking for a dog. The ground near the old foundation collapsed beneath him. He fell into a shallow cavity created when the original cellar was filled during the relocation. He survived, but the accident led the county to inspect the property. The inspectors found that the relocated house had been supported on a mixture of old timbers and newer concrete blocks. The foundation was uneven. The chimney had separated from the main structure by nearly 2 inches. The building was still usable, but repairs would have cost more than the family could afford. Ruth moved into town. She did not want to discuss the house because she believed the county had allowed the building to remain unsafe. According to Elaine, she was embarrassed by the condition of the property and angry that people treated the farmhouse as a local curiosity. She was tired of being asked if the house was in the right place, Elaine said. She said it was always in the wrong place because nobody had bothered to record where it actually stood. That sentence may have been remembered and reshaped into the legend. The county's fire records provided another piece of the sequence. The fire had destroyed the storage building where older assessment cards and road maps were kept. But not every record had been lost. Several files had been removed from the building during an earlier flood and were stored in a separate annex. Among them was a road assignment ledger from 1989. The ledger contained a handwritten correction for the Venn parcel. The original entry identified 410 County Road 6. A line had been drawn through it, and beside it was written, "Use 1187 North Bell Road. Former driveway remains in system." The phrase, "former driveway remains in system," was underlined twice. That was the source of the persistent misdirection. When the county converted its paper map to a digital database, both access points had been entered. One represented the road frontage. The other represented the location associated with the old mailbox. Navigation software later selected the older point because it was closer to the parcel centroid. A modern driver following the route would be sent to the field, not because the house had moved mysteriously, but because two legitimate-looking locations had been assigned to one property. The later reports of misdirected mail came from the same conflict. Some envelopes were labeled with the road address. Others retained the rural delivery number. Sorting software treated them as equivalent, while the route map directed the carrier toward the old entrance. The post office eventually corrected the route. The county did not remove the old point from its internal mapping system. That left two addresses for a property that no longer contained a house. The final test came when a library volunteer discovered a second photograph. Not of the farmhouse, but of the road crew repairing the property's entrance after the 1968 move. The image showed the house in the background, raised on timber beams. In front of it stood the same wooden marker visible in the earlier photograph. The plate could now be read. It displayed the number 19. Route 3, Box 19, the earliest known address. The marker had remained at the original driveway while the house was pulled uphill. In the later image, the house had moved, but the number 19 was still beside the road. The photographer had captured both the old address marker and the newly positioned farmhouse in the same frame. That was the unidentified detail. Not a second building, not a figure in a window, not a sign of a house existing in two places at once. It was an address that had been left behind. The explanation was ordinary, but the sequence that produced the legend was unusually efficient. A house was moved 38 feet. The mailbox stayed where it had been. The road system changed 3 times. A county database preserved both locations. A family left after the building was declared too costly to repair. Aerial photographs were taken from different angles and dates. The surviving image showed the old marker beside the new position of the house. Later, when the structure was demolished, the database still pointed to the former entrance. Every stage added a small error. Together, the errors created the impression of a property that could not be held to one location. There was still no way to prove that every version of the legend referred to the Venn farmhouse. Some local accounts may have involved nearby properties. Some witnesses may have remembered different road numbers. The story had circulated for decades, and each retelling likely compressed several events into one. But the main sequence now had documents, measurements, photographs, and a surviving physical marker. The farmhouse had stood in one place, then been moved within the parcel, then removed. Its address had changed as the county reorganized the roads, while older identifiers remained active in maps and delivery records. That was enough to explain the mystery without requiring the building to cross county lines or appear in two locations simultaneously. It also explained why the story resisted correction. Anyone visiting the old address would find no house. Anyone checking the later parcel would find evidence that a house had once stood there. Anyone comparing the photographs without their dates could see a structure that seemed to shift. And anyone receiving mail meant for an empty field would have a reason to believe the address itself was behaving strangely. The last surviving post was eventually removed because it had become a hazard to farm equipment. Before it was taken away, the county photographed it and recorded its location. The number plate was already gone. Only the two bolts remained, holding the shape of a sign that had outlived the building it identified. For years, people had asked where the farmhouse was. The more accurate question was which part of the farmhouse they meant. The original foundation, the relocated structure, the road marker, or the address preserved in the database. Those points had once been connected. Then the building moved, the roads were renamed, the records divided, and the property emptied. The house did not escape its address. The address survived the house. The address survived the house. It also survived the correction. In the spring of 2024, a local surveyor named Daniel Rusk was hired to mark the boundary of the Venn parcel before it was divided among 3 heirs. The work should have taken one afternoon. The land was mostly pasture, and the legal description was straightforward. Begin at the northeast corner of the old county tract, follow the creek south, then continue along the former road line until reaching a stone culvert. Rusk arrived with a GPS receiver, a metal detector, and a folder of survey records printed by the county clerk. The first problem appeared before he reached the property. His navigation device directed him away from County Road 6 and onto North Bell Road, the same gravel lane that ended near the former driveway. The route was marked as the entrance to the parcel. Rusk assumed the map was using an outdated access point and continued on foot. At the edge of the field, he found a shallow depression overgrown with blackberry vines. A rusted length of pipe protruded from the soil. Beside it lay a rectangular piece of wood, split down the center and blackened by weather. He photographed both objects, then walked uphill toward the present boundary. The receiver began giving inconsistent readings. Every few seconds, the screen showed him standing on the parcel line. Then it placed him nearly 40 yards west, near the creek. The error was too large to be ordinary signal drift. He checked the device against 2 survey stakes and restarted it. The same thing happened. The problem followed him across the field. When he reached the approximate location of the former farmhouse, the receiver settled. It showed a point labeled residential structure, despite the fact that nothing stood there except waist-high grass and a cluster of young locust trees. Rusk assumed the label had been copied from an old county layer. He made a note of it and continued measuring. At 3:18 in the afternoon, he drove back toward the highway. As he passed the old entrance, his vehicle's dashboard announced that he had arrived at 1187 North Bell Road. The voice was generated by the truck's navigation system, which had synchronized with a county address database during a recent software update. Rusk stopped the vehicle, There was no residence, no gate, no mailbox. Only the pipe in the ground and the broken wooden board. He called the county GIS office from the roadside. The technician who answered asked him to read the coordinates aloud. When Rusk did, there was a pause. That point was supposed to be retired, the technician said. Retired from what? The emergency response layer. It should not be visible to the public. Rusk looked through his windshield at the empty field. What does it identify? The technician did not answer immediately. Keys clicked in the background. Former residential access, she said at last. That is all I can see. Rusk sent the photographs that evening. The next morning, the GIS office sent him a shapefile with 3 overlapping points. One was labeled County Road 6. One was labeled North Bell Road. The third had no road name at all. Its identification field contained a 6-digit number followed by the letter V. The number matched an entry in an emergency dispatch archive. In October 2011, a volunteer fire department had been sent to the Venn property after a caller reported smoke coming from the farmhouse. The call had originated from a prepaid cell phone, and the caller had given no name. Dispatch software converted the location into an address and directed the crew to North Bell Road. The fire crew found nothing burning. They did, however, find a column of smoke rising from the lower field. The captain, believing the smoke came from a brush fire, followed it across the pasture and discovered an abandoned refrigerator burning beside a drainage ditch. He extinguished it with a portable tank and filed the incident as illegal dumping. The call should have ended there. But the dispatch record contained an attached note written by the captain. Caller may have been observing old farmhouse location. No structure present. The note had been entered under the obsolete address. No one had connected the report to the surviving legend because the incident produced no damage, no injured person, and no identifiable caller. It remained buried among thousands of rural service calls. Rusk found the detail because he was looking for the third coordinate. He returned to the field 2 days later with the county technician and an archivist from the Historical Society. The archivist brought a metal case containing copies of the 1989 ledger, photographs, and a set of property tax cards. The technician brought a tablet displaying the hidden emergency layer. The 3 of them stood near the blackened pipe while a cold rain moved across the pasture. The third point was not at the foundation. It was 41 feet downhill, near the drainage ditch. That makes no sense, Rusk said. The technician zoomed in. The point had been created in 2007, when the county adopted a new system for locating rural homes without street numbers. Instead of using the building's center, technicians had marked the nearest vehicle-accessible location. For the Venn property, the software had Select D, the old driveway. The third point had later been copied into the emergency database. When the fire department entered the parcel number, the system displayed the nearest access point. When navigation companies purchased the county's public data, they acquired the same coordinate. But the source of the point was still unclear. Why had it been created in 2007 if the old driveway had already been abandoned? The archivist examined the property card. Somebody called for a new address, she said. She turned the card around. At the bottom, in a clerk's handwriting, was a note dated June 12, 2007. Owner requests address for insurance correspondence. Building currently unoccupied. The owner listed was not a member of the Venn family. It was a company based in a neighboring town. Rusk recognized the name. The company bought abandoned rural properties, held them for several years, and sold them for timber or pasture. It had acquired the Venn land after the last family member moved away. The company never rebuilt the farmhouse. It never installed a mailbox. It simply needed an address for its insurance policy. To obtain one, an employee had driven to the old entrance, photographed the wooden post, and submitted the location to the county. The clerk entered the address without realizing that the marker referred to the original driveway rather than the relocated building. That explained the 2007 coordinate. It did not explain the phone call from 2011. The archivist requested the audio recording. The county had preserved it on a compact disc in a storage cabinet used for old dispatch files. The disc label read, "MISC Rural Calls, 2011. When the archivist played it in the Historical Society office, the recording began with static and the sound of rain striking a vehicle window. The dispatcher spoke first. 911, what is the location of your emergency? For several seconds, no one answered. Then a man said, "There's smoke at the farmhouse." The dispatcher asked him to repeat the address. The man replied, "The old Venn place, North Bell. The house is burning. Do you have a street number?" There was another pause. "It's the one with 19 on the post." The dispatcher asked whether anyone was inside. The man said, "No, it's not there anymore." The line went silent. The dispatcher repeated the question. This time the caller said, "It was there when I came through." Then the call ended. The number 19 had not appeared in the dispatch transcript because the software captured only the standardized address. The original recording had survived by accident. Investigators began searching for the caller. The prepaid phone had been activated at a gas station outside town. It was used only once for the emergency call and was discarded afterward. No store camera records remained. The station had changed ownership twice, and the payment had been made in cash. The fire captain remembered the incident clearly. He had assumed the caller was confused or intoxicated. The smoke near the ditch had convinced him that the report was a prank built around an illegal fire. But the captain had not noticed any signpost. When Rusk asked him about it, he thought for a long time. "There was something by the lane," he said. "A board, maybe. I remember seeing a number." Was it 19? I don't know. It was dark. The captain's written report stated that the fire crew arrived at 11:42 p.m. The call had been placed at 11:31. The smoke was located 6 minutes after arrival. The weather records showed heavy rain beginning at 11:50. That created a narrow window in which the caller could have seen smoke before the storm intensified. But there was still no farmhouse to burn. The county technician suggested that the caller had simply mistaken the smoke from the refrigerator for a building fire. The archivist agreed. Rusk was less certain. He returned to the ditch with a hand auger and located a layer of ash beneath the mud. The ash was not from the refrigerator. Laboratory testing later identified charred softwood, roofing tar, and fragments of painted pine. The materials had once belonged to a structure. They were found nearly 50 yards from the ditch and 30 yards from the recorded farmhouse foundation. A second search uncovered more fragments. 2 square nails, a section of melted window glass, and the remains of a cast iron stove door. The discovery changed the investigation. The Venn farmhouse had not simply been demolished and hauled away. At least part of it had been burned on the property. The demolition contractor's invoice, located in a stack of payment records, stated that the structure was taken down by machine and disposed of on site. The phrase had been used loosely. The contractor had removed the usable lumber, but left the stove, roofing scraps, and painted boards in a depression near the former drive. Months later, someone had apparently set the debris on fire. The fire captain's smoke had come from the remains of the farmhouse. The caller had not seen a house standing in the field. He had seen the old building's debris burning near the place where the original driveway met the road. In the darkness and rain, the distinction would have been impossible to make from a passing vehicle. That solved the last supernatural detail, but it created a more troubling question. Who had burned the remains? The county had no permit. The property company denied responsibility. Its former manager said the demolition crew had likely disposed of the debris after leaving the site. The demolition contractor had died in 2018, but his son remembered the job. "My father never burned anything there," he said. "He told me the stove door was missing before he finished." The stove door was the piece Rusk had found in the ditch. Someone had removed it before the fire. The object was cleaned and examined at the Historical Society. Along its underside, beneath layers of soot, was a shallow inscription made with a nail. The letters were uneven, but readable. RV19. The initials matched a Venn family member R who had lived in the farmhouse during the 1950s. The number corresponded to the old route designation. It was not a secret code. It was likely a child's mark, scratched into the iron decades earlier. But its location explained why the object had been carried away from the demolition pile. The stove door had not been discarded accidentally. Someone had taken it from the farmhouse before the final fire. A search of local antique listings produced one possibility. In 2010, a cast iron stove door bearing the initials RV had been offered at a roadside sale. The seller was a man who lived near North Bell Road. The listing included a photograph of the object lying on a wooden porch. The porch belonged to a former tenant of the property company. That man had died before investigators could question him, but his daughter remembered the stove door. "He thought it came from an old house," she said. "He pulled it out of a pile near the pasture. He kept it for years because he wanted to turn it into a sign." She had sold it at the roadside sale after clearing his property. The buyer remained unidentified. The object had disappeared again. At first, this seemed like another loose end. Then Rusk compared the date of the sale with the date of the emergency call. The stove door had been sold in August 2011. The fire had been reported in October. The buyer could have taken it to the property, recognized the initials, and returned to the site. Perhaps he wanted to photograph the old marker. Perhaps he believed the door was part of a local story. Perhaps he had simply dumped it near the ditch after learning that it had no value. If he then burned the remaining debris, he might have called the fire department out of concern, or to make the destruction appear accidental. No evidence proved any of this. The sheriff's office opened no case. The fire had occurred 13 years earlier, the property was privately owned, and the materials had been removed or washed into the soil. There was no confirmed crime. Still, the investigation produced one final witness. In the summer year of 2024, a retired school bus driver named Margaret Hale contacted the Historical Society after seeing a newspaper article about the Venn address. She said she had been driving North Bell Road on the night of the fire. Her account differed from the dispatch recording in one important detail. She had seen a person standing near the old driveway. Hale had been returning from a late shift at the elementary school. Rain covered the windshield, and she was traveling slowly because the gravel lane was flooded near the culvert. As she passed the field, she saw a small orange glow and a man holding something pale in both hands. She thought he was carrying a sign. The man stepped toward the road but stopped when her headlights reached him. She saw a white rectangle at chest height. Then he turned away and walked toward the ditch. Hale did not stop. She continued to the highway and called the fire department from a payphone at a truck stop. "Why didn't you tell anyone about the man?" Rusk asked. "I thought he was the owner," she said, "and I thought the house was still there." She had not heard the dispatcher's call recording until the article appeared. When she heard the phrase about the number 19, she remembered the object in the man's hands. "It was a metal plate," she said. "Not a sign. A number plate." The original route marker had been removed from the post years earlier. Its disappearance had never been explained. The man near the fire may have been holding that plate when Hale passed. But why would anyone take it to the burning debris? Rusk developed one final theory. The person may have been trying to reunite the old address marker with the last physical remains of the house. The plate had identified the property before the road was renamed, before the house was moved, and before the address became a digital point. By the time of the fire, the marker and the building had been separated for decades. Someone had carried the number 19 to the place where the farmhouse was being destroyed. The gesture was irrational, but not impossible. People praise RVE objects because of what they connect, not because of what they are worth. A number plate can become the last piece of a vanished home. The county eventually erased the final emergency coordinate. The navigation companies updated their maps. The heirs completed the land division, and the former Venn parcel acquired 3 new addresses, all attached to driveways that had never existed during the farmhouse years. Rusk placed the broken wooden marker and the recovered stove door in the Historical Society storage room. The number plate was never found. One afternoon, while cataloging the objects, the archivist noticed a faint rectangle on the back of the wooden board. The surface had been protected from weather by the metal plate. Within that shape were 4 small nail holes and a line of newer scratches. They formed the outline of a second number, not 19. The marks read 1187. The modern address had been carved into the back of the old marker, probably by the property company employee who photographed it in 2007. The front still CAR'd the past. The back carried the replacement. Both numbers had occupied the same piece of wood. That was why the address had continued to generate conflicting records. It was not merely represented in 2 databases. The physical marker itself had been updated without being replaced. The old identity remained visible from the road, while the new one existed on the side no traveler ever saw. Years later, after the house and the post were gone, the county's digital system preserved both. The farmhouse had not moved again, but its marker had been turned, its road renamed, its debris burned, and its coordinates copied into systems that no longer knew what they represented. At the Historical Society, the artifacts now rest in separate drawers. The split board in one, the stove door in another, and the photographs in a climate-controlled cabinet. The archivist refuses to display them together. She says the separation is deliberate. The objects spent too many years being mistaken for one another. When visitors ask about the Venn farmhouse, she does not point to a single spot on the map. She shows them the field, the old road line, and the place where the ditch once carried smoke through the rain. Then she opens the drawer containing the board. On one side is the number that belonged to the house before the roads changed. On the other is the number assigned after the house was gone. Between them is a strip of wood no wider than a finger, worn smooth by weather and handling. That narrow strip was the only part of the marker that had never carried a number. It was the place where the two addresses touched. And for one night in 2011, under rain and firelight, someone carried both meanings back to the empty field.